as he screams into the microphone. Am I getting a lot of the misses? Ooh yeah, jamming. I want to jam it with you. What's the crack? Can you hear me all right? They've gone and changed settings and stuff, so if I push this button, it should show camera. There's a bit of a delay. So you can never be too sure with YouTube. It's a crafty individual. Always keeping you on your toes. You know what I mean, lads? It looks like it's working. Oh, Marley is great. It must be working. What's the story, lads? What's the crack? Marcus is here. Who else is here? Who have we got in the house? Sorry, hold on. I'm a little parched. You know yourself. You need the LT. Need an L cup to keep me going. Really tankard size. We have Sebastian. I'm not even going to try pronounce your second name, Sebastian. Because I know there's an umlaut over the A, but I won't offend you. We have Squigboss. Poke Cactus dropped in to say hello. What's the crack, Poke Cactus? Pale Green Gits here. And Marcus is here. What's the story, bud? He says he won't be here long. Got to watch the Dallas Cowboys play the first game of the season. I presume this is the football of the Americans. Okay. Best of luck to them. What is the crack, Gits? What have you been up to? There's been some interesting shenanigans of late going on in the world of Warhammer 40k. And don't mind me, I'm just shaking some paint like Steve-O. I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be. I'm trying out. What I've got on the work table is the 10 gruts that we had the last time around, and I just literally have not gotten around to painting as much as I should have. But I'm going to try out some Vallejo grey here. I should have... I don't know if I'm going to use this Vallejo grey or a different one. This is the German World War II Luftwaffe blue, so I don't think I'll use that grey. But I have a newer bottle, which is a model air colour. So if this works, I can spray as the base for my miniatures. So this is their German grey, their 71.052 Vallejo. So I'm giving that a good shake. And my thinking is I want to do the bases in grey. And I have been using some of GW's colours, but quite a few of my pots as of late have dried up on me, so I want to try something a bit different. NFL. Oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't know. It's like sport, me, just over there. I don't know. I know it happens. I don't know much about it. So I want to give this German grey a bash. I'm gonna base some of these gruts, and then I might do a bit of tidy up for some more gubbos. I don't know if you guys would recognize these dusty individuals, but over the past weekend, I went away with my nephew and my brother. My nephew is 5. My brother is a couple of years younger than me. And I had the two of them playing Hero Quest. So that reminded me, I had enough miniatures to play the game. For those of you who don't know, Hero Quest is a board game from the late 80s. I think the one I have is from 1989. I think that it was produced for a couple of years by Milton and Bradley, in cooperation with Milton and Bradley and Games Workshop. These are some of the miniatures out of it. So I bought some spares off of someone. These are goblins. A couple of goblins. They're a little bit dusty, so doing some prep work on them. And then I'm going to have to buy something and strip down of a few orcs, a few spare orcs for Hero Quest. So yeah, I had my 5-year-old nephew playing Hero Quest, and my brother, and the both of them loved it, and they're like, we should play more games, because it's like Hero Quest is a dungeon crawler. For if you've never played it before, it's a dungeon crawler game, but it's got like a campaign element to it. So it's like you'll go on a quest, you'll survive, you'll gather gold, you'll buy extra gear, you'll go on the next quest and stuff like that. So it's kind of like nearly role-playing game, because like one guy plays the bad guy and sets up the dungeon tiles and stuff. So that's what I spent my weekend doing, was playing Hero Quest and war games and such. So yeah, I'm looking at these dudes. That might be a bit of fun. Get together and get them painted up. Yeah, because my brother was asking me, he's like, why don't you have the Hero Quest set painted up? Because it also comes with. This is another bit of furniture I bought off of someone else. There's little bits and pieces of Hero Quest. So this would be obviously a tomb. So this is like a hero's tomb that somebody else has painted up from years ago. So I'll have to strip that down and paint it up. And there's all these little interesting bits, but you'll get like, it's one of those type of board games where there's like plastic elements, but you'll get cardboard as well. So obviously this is just this plastic part, and then there's just like some cardboard that would have been needed to be folded up. So this would have been folded up and then just goes in there. So there's loads of little elements. So I plan on painting some of that up. That'll be fun. Get my nephew and my brother. They're loving Hero Quest. So I reckon if I get a good few of them painted, it'll be something fun and interesting. And worst case scenario, if I screw them up, like I have spares as well. If I screw them up, I'll just strip them down. They're not bad for what they are. Like these single part plastic miniatures, they're not too bad for what they are at all. Like late 80s, early 90s, it's like, well, it's alright. Obviously technology's come on since then, but you know, there's only a couple of places where the detail's lacking a little bit, you know, definition between where his ear ends and his tunic starts, but in general, for what they were, you know, they're not bad. And they're proper hard plastic as well. They're not that flexy plastic that we get. You know that stuff where it's like super bendy, where a guy will be holding his staff up and the staff will be like, meow. No, it's not. It's not like that. It's proper like miniature plastic. So yeah, so that's what I've been up to, messing around with Hero Quest. I'm gonna be prepping those guys up, and we're gonna paint some of these guys grey. What are you guys painting? What have you been up to? What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about the controversy of what was it? Legend series, Warhammer 40k Legends. Yeah, we could talk about that if you want. I don't mind. I don't mind storing the pot. I need to get a wooden spoon. We can store the pot. It seems myself and Steve-O don't agree. Steve-O's like, yes, awesome rules for everything, but they won't be updated. So I'm like, that means they're phasing them out. But whatever. I digress. I'd have to give the chap an opportunity to defend his point of view, but we shall see in good time. Marcus is saying he likes Vallejo. Yeah, I have airbrushes. I should be using them more often. I have an airbrush boot. It's just chocked full of miniatures and sprues at the moment. I should be using it. You know, I get easily distracted. Let's just say that much. I get way too easily distracted. So I'm going to give this a bash tonight. That's what we're going to do. We're going to paint. It's happening. We're going to base these grots and we'll go from there. I have quite a lot of grots to do. So these guys will be my batch test of 10 dudes. It's just sand PVA to the base and then sealed in again, which looks kind of like it's just sand. And I'll just do 2 layers if you're wondering what the basing is. So it's like PVA glue, white glue, wood glue, whatever you call it. Put down a standard layer to cover, stick your sand onto it, and then I'll come back in again with a really watered down layer of white glue or PVA glue or wood glue, whatever you call it. They're all polyvinyl acetate, I do believe it's what it's called. And then I put in another layer to seal it in, because I don't really see the point in buying pots of pre-made stuff. Like, this is super cheap to do it, and I like it. I like the end result when you paint it up and stuff, and then you can just integrate in. I have bullets here and stuff like that. But yeah, you seal it in a second time round so that it doesn't rub off. The sand will still come off if you only put on 1 layer, stick it on, and then don't seal it in with a second layer. Some of the sand will come off, but yeah, once you put a second layer in, it's grand. It's pretty sturdy. It'll survive the test of time. Over time, as you can tell. So yeah, that's what I do for my base, and it's just sand, just in case anyone was wondering. I know nobody directly asked, but you never know. Pale Green Grit Hero Quest was really great. Hero Quest is really great if you can get your hands on a copy for a reasonable price, and that's hard to come by. To get my copy of Hero Quest complete, I was given a copy by someone that wasn't complete, and then I bought an incomplete copy for about 20 or 30 quid to complete my copy of Hero Quest. So I have the base set. I know there was expansions. I have no interest in them because they go for stupid money as well. Sure, what can you do? Hans Gruber, how he goes, my local GW had its birthday and had a raffle for some prizes. 2 of them was Hero Quest Advance and Warhammer Quest. I have not played either of them. I've heard good things about them though. That would be sweet to get your hands on it. Hellgreen Gate, I wish I could get my hands on a box of it. Like I said, price wise, cost you money. Marcos is saying, oh no, Legends. Let's hear it, Skarnir. Oh, you want me to rant on about Legends? I can crack on about Legends. Dim has appeared. What's the crack, Dim? Orc Stuff's here. What's Orc Stuff saying? Do you know that my Wazzy only just fits inside the gauge box I built for your big vehicle? Oh, Jesus. See, it's because of people like you that I had to put a size limit on this build. Because otherwise, you know, we'd end up with the same results again, where I tell people to build small vehicles, and, you know, what I deem as a small vehicle clearly isn't the same as what other people deem as a small vehicle. It's like, oh, we're building small vehicles. Can I enter this? Stomp it. Honest gov. It's like, well, you can, but it's kind of for small vehicles. So that's why I decided on the restrictions size-wise for build, and we can actually go and have a look. So if nobody is aware of the competition, it is active. Marcos is saying, I'm painting 32nd edition Gruts this month. Good man yourself, good man. Paint that horde. It won't paint itself. Marcus is saying, for the build off, I plan on turning a couple of 3rd edition trucks into Chinork Warcopters. I was planning on doing Chinork Warcopters at one stage, but I've started to actually sell off some of my extra stuff that I have for 40k. So like some Imperial Guard vehicles that I bought and was planning on looting, but I decided to part ways with them because I just don't have the space anymore. You know what I mean? Plus, I'm planning on spending quite a bit on Battletech, but shh, we won't say that around here. Jesus. Well, let's go have a look. We'll have a look in our Discord really quick. Since we're talking about the build competition, we'll come back to the chat. And we'll show you guys. Just for anyone who isn't aware, we do have the build competition up and running. It started yesterday, I do believe. I apologize, I haven't had a chance to actually do a video of it. If the screen isn't black, it would help. Oh, God. Don't be doing this to me now. Don't be doing this to me. Don't be doing this. No capture. Come on now. Come on now. On the live stream. Gonna work for me? No? Maybe if I try this. Aha! That works. Right. So, we're looking at the big vehicle building competition. So it's live, people. Get building. I decided there was no point in just telling people to collect stuff for a week or 2 weeks, because apparently Orc players don't have any patience and just want to build straight away. So it's live. Get building. We have our big vehicle competition rules. So this is all in the Discord. If you go into the Discord, you can follow the links in the description. If it's not here during the live stream, I'll throw it up now in a second. But it'll definitely be in the final description once the video's ended. So in the mech shop, you'll see the big vehicle building competition. This one. So this is where people need to post their entries. So we'll look at some of the rules. So I made some maximum dimensions, but these are of the hull of the vehicle. So if you're building a flyer, the wings won't count as long as the wings aren't unreasonably thick and large. You know what I mean? Like, it's a wing, it's not like part of your hull. So it gives some people a bit of flexibility. Why I've settled on these dimensions in particular, my reasoning are, it's bigger than a Land Raider, but smaller than a Baneblade, and we didn't want to go bigger than Baneblade because we're going to have a super heavy build. There's going to be a super heavy vehicle building competition in the future. So as you can tell, I've sort of gone from small to big, and then we'll do super heavy, and then you guys can go nuts. Maybe we'll even do terrain in the future, but one competition build at a time. So we've got the height max 4 inches, width 4 inches, and then length 8 inches. Like I said, it's just a little bit bigger than a Land Raider. So if you get your hands on a Land Raider and loot that, you can beef it up a little bit, but it's smaller than a Baneblade for the super heavy build future reasons. You do not have to build up to these dimensions. You can build a small vehicle if you want. You can build, bikes and stuff. Just don't be too restricted. Like I said, banners and gubbins do not count. So, like, say if you have a Rebel cutter that's like 4 inches wide and 4 inches long, but the crow's nest is 6 inches tall, it's okay because it'll be like within reason. It's not the hull itself, you know what I mean? Unless the crow's nest was nearly the size of the cutter. Just more rules that we want for the big vehicle competition. New builds only, no completed projects. Yes, no cheeky gits trying to enter their pre-builds already. So the first image that you post of your build needs to have Skarnir Big Vehicle Build, that's BVB 2019, written on a piece of paper or something in your first image. No completed projects. You will be disqualified. I'm looking at you, you sneaky git. Lazy gits. The whole point of the building competition is to get new stuff built. So, don't be lazy gits. Build new stuff. Like I said, must post an image of the project, pre-build with the code word. Show in the code word. You know what I mean? Show us your pre-build. And all final entries must be in by the 31st of October. And for those of you who aren't orcishly inclined, that's October. Obviously, it's orky vehicles. I'm sure there was something else. Yeah. I nearly forgot to add these in. People were asking previously what would they be judged on. So it'll be like build composition, how you've put the vehicle together, the quality of the build, whether you've just dunked something, whether you've just like dunked a styrofoam ball into your bits box with some PVA glue and gone ta-da, the quality of the build, and then the theme of the build. So there you go. That's what it is. You want to throw in your images here. So this is a cardboard box that Orc Stuff did up as a gauge size. So he's got his, as you can see, his sort of battle wagon-y truck thing inside of it. So look, you have loads of space. Don't be giving out now. The hull can be this big, can be huge, like huge. And yeah, people are getting all their bits together. And look, they're even posting in the code word. I like it. I likes it. It's a good start. It's a good start, lads. So that's what we got so far. Don't forget, while we're doing the stream, post your stuff up in the live stream work in progress. This is from the last time around. I will throw up a link, I believe. We will crack on again. So we'll throw into this cam. And away we go. So, if anyone has any questions about the building competition, feel free to ask me now if you want. Sweet Jesus, the comment section. He was asking about how many orc boys do you think you've got? My personal goal is 200. This is Sebastian, and I've got about 118 now. How many do I know that I have? Currently, I know I have built I have 3 units of 30 shooter boys, and I have 3 units of slugger and chopper boys. So what's that? That's 180. And I know I have more because, like, bits boxes full of torsos and stuff. So I know I have more. I actually don't know. That's not counting my Gorka Morka boys and my second ed stuff, and I've lots of boys. Well, ballpark figure easily more than 300, I think. Yeah. Lots, many lots, loads. Tim Reaper, I'm painting models, hell must have frozen over. You and me both, bud. You and me both. Seb is saying bigger is better. Well, yeah, for building competitions. I've noticed with orc players, it's like you'll start off with a small project, and it'll be like, oh yeah, it's just this small thing, and then more stuff will get added on, and it gets bigger and more stuff, and then you'll like chop it in two and double width tracks, and sure you'll jack up the suspension at that, and then by that time it's like it's not some of the creations with orc stuff. It's very unique to our factions. Some of the creations can snowball in scale very quickly over a very short period of time. It's like, at what point does a battle wagon turn into a battle fortress? It's like it's a bit of a grey area, you know. So I thought the restriction size wise would come in handy. Orc stuff is saying, I've got a wee problem with the build dimensions he is given being either long and narrow or tall and tail, neither of which is particularly orky. So I was looking at Mega Dread that'll fit in the box. Yeah, go for it, Mega Dread. There are no restrictions to what type of vehicle, only the size of the vehicle. Like I said, it's roughly a little bit bigger than a Land Raider. So a Land Raider is fairly chunky. Like, just because that's the maximum dimensions doesn't mean you have to make it those exact dimensions. They're just the maximum. You can build something a lot smaller, like if you wanted to build a bike, or if you wanted to build a grot tank. But we don't talk about grot tanks around in these neck of the woods. No, we don't. I still have that one staring at me, mocking me. It'll have to wait until I get a 3D printer. I just can't deal with tracks anymore. Dave is here. What's the crack, Dave? Which DW yellows and primer would you use on an orc truck? The recommended is Averland Sunset. Is it base? Aerial yellow, flashkit yellow. But that sounds something. There's a yellow I use. I do think it's Averland Sunset. It's like a mustardy yellow. Do I have it to hand? See, me not being a filthy bad moon or flash kit, I don't really paint much yellow. I normally do it on like cables and stuff. I don't have it to hand, but I think, yeah, Averland Sunset's a good solid base. No, I don't have it to hand. Most of the colours, funnily enough, I have to hand are like greys and greens of camouflage disposition, so like Dead World Forest and that sort. But I don't tend to paint filthy yellow orcs. It's not my cup of tea, I'm afraid. I'm an orker of finer tastes of the BLOODAXE'S persuasion. But yeah, I think Averland Sunset is a good start. Seb is saying orcs are never late. He was cracking on. Marcus is saying 270 pages down, game ready. Good man, Marcus. You're doing better than me. I just sort of stare at the sprues and hope that the painting elves will come and paint them at the night. But it never happens. Hans Gruber, are you open to a bribe? It depends what type and how much. How many CM are that? CM? Squig Boss, I don't know what CMs are. You'll have to give me some context. Dim Reaper's talking about base painting lead belcher, then paint color over the lead belcher. Dim Reaper is giving solid advice when it comes to painting colors over, especially for orc vehicles. A great technique is to do it in lead belcher, as he said, and then paint the color over, but don't paint up to the edges. So we'll take this Hero Quest Tomb, for instance. If we were to paint this whole thing lead belcher, so if it was a solid color of lead belcher, then if you get whatever your color you're doing, say we're painting it, I don't know, bleeding, if we're going to paint it Dead World Forest, when you're painting the color, don't paint the whole thing. Start from the center and then work your way up to the edges, but don't go all the way up to the edges, and that way you can save yourself, especially if you do a lot of stippling, and stippling is where you sort of stab your brush. You'd want a stippling brush or an old brush that you don't give a rat's about anymore for stippling. If you stipple the paint on, then you can give the paint a bit of texture, but also you're killing two birds with one stone. You've got a solid base, consistent base to paint over, and any area that you don't put paint, like the edges and stuff, will look pre-weathered. So it's like, it's win-win. It's a great technique. I do believe our good friend Kyle, when he's painting his miniatures, does exactly the same thing, and it looks pretty sweet when he paints his stuff. So yes, lead belcher, and then whatever color you want to put on top, especially lead belcher and yellows look really good. But you can do it with blues, reds, you know, the usual stuff. The usual orky palette. Oh, how many centimeters are in an inch? I think Demon Reaper's right. It's approximately 2.5. But like, we play 40k. It's, you know, we're used to the imperial metric by now. I thought, yeah, I thought, like, does everyone not play 40k in inches? Like, do the Germans, have they decided to go their own way, to strike it out and measure 40k in centimeters? I don't blame them, to be honest with you. The madness that is the United States metric. It's like, I don't quite get it. You decide to have a revolution, but you don't go as far as the French. The French are like, no, even the measurements and currency, everything, the whole shebang. I think this grey is a bit too dark for my lichens for basing. And I think I need a bigger brush, or I'll be here a year and a day trying to paint this bleeding grot. I will get one of me knackered old brushes. Yep, this one has definitely seen better days. So I'm pretty sure it won't mind painting. Oh Jesus, yeah, this brush is dead. Dead to the world. I'm pretty sure it won't mind painting sand, which will absolutely kill any of your brushes. Do not ever do the colour basing on any of your miniatures, especially if it's sand, with a decent brush, because you're pretty much painting like sandpaper. And we all know what sandpaper does when you rub things against it. You know, it ruins them. Oh, Dave, don't be asking us those. The forbidden B word. We we won't go into details, and whatever you do, don't, sweet Jesus, don't say the road Dim Reaper. He won't. We don't want to start him ranting. We really don't. Orc stuff. It's the size of a proper orc base. That. Marcus is saying, now I can watch this game and listen and paint as well. Listen, game and paint. That's, if ever I've heard of multitasking, I think Marcos has nailed that one. Got it down to a fine art, and this, I think this paintbrush is a lot worse than I thought it was. I think this can be relegated to applying PVA glue. Sweet Jesus, what did I do to this thing? Anyway, that's his base painted great. Yeah, this is our new PVA glue brush. Yay! I really, really, really need to buy new brushes. Really do. Such a lazy git. Like, you'd think I wouldn't wash them out or anything, but I do. They just die a horrible death. Is it just me? Is it me? Is anybody else having problems with their brushes just not quite lasting as long as you thought they would? This is why I've started buying like El Cheapo Shyhole brushes. I'm not really giving a rat's about them. Like this Humbrol, I got like a whole pack of Humbrol brushes. It was like 5 or 6, and it cost me very little. And like, they're super soft bristles compared to what I'm used to using, but you know, they seem to do the trick. So yeah, I'll give it a go. Sure, what's the worst that could happen? But like, look how super dark that is. I don't even know if you guys can tell the difference between the black and the grey, but it's really, it's a bit much of a muchness. Like, it's a bit different. Brush repairs, yeah, I don't know, Dim. Like, I have Master's soap, but some of these brushes are beyond brush repair gel. Apparently, we should never throw out our brushes, but just relegate them to the terrible jobs that no decent brush should be relegated to, like using for plastic glue or PVA glue, basing, that sort of stuff, dry brushing. You know, the stuff that loyal paintbrushes after many years of service go off and do. They're like retirement jobs for paintbrushes. There you go. Here we go. Look, see. This one's gone grand. Plus, if I ruin this one, I'm not too bothered. Hey. Yeah, it's like after a certain period of time, once the bristles have given up the ghost, there are only certain jobs suitable for brushes of the older persuasion. Not that we're being ageist around here. We'd never be such a thing. You know? It's just whatever each individual brush is capable of. You know what I mean? We wouldn't want to give them a job that's beyond their skill level at that stage. So maybe base color blocking out, maybe at a push, if we're feeling fruity that day, or we just haven't found any of the younger brushes that are capable. We'll give it a go. What's Squig Boss asking? Can I put a chip in it so I can say play music? So I can play music? Play what music? You're confusing me now. Fuck stuff, none of them last forever. That is true, they do have a finite lifespan. But I would expect if you're spending like 10 or 12 quid on a brush and you're trying to take care of it, that it doesn't just split on you. Like sweet Jesus, I think I bought some Arpus Opus brushes or whatever they're called. They were terrible. It was a Kickstarter I got in on. I used one of their brushes twice. You know, made sure not to get paint up into it. Took my time with it, took care of the brush, and the bastard still split. So they are absolutely terrible brushes. Do not buy them at all. I would not advise. Like, I'm not much of a painter, but when when you're buying brushes and they're supposed to be sable and they're supposed to be decent, and it still goes to shit, even though you go out of your way, make sure it doesn't. I'm like, not impressed, gents. Not impressed. Go near any of their brushes. Not at all. Slowly basing grots. Sure, I've only like 200 more of these bastards to paint. Pretty sure I'm not even joking. Brushes 1 foot in the grave. That's an imperial foot. Yeah, 1 foot in the grave. Man, I remember that TV series. That was hilarious. Back in the day. That and the oh, what was it? What was that TV series called with Mrs. Bouquet? Oh, I forget. It's not. Some mothers do have them. Was a different one. Was it Keeping Up Appearances? Is that what it was called? I can't remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. But that was bleeding hilarious as well. Where she tormented neighbours. Yeah, I think it was Keeping Up Appearances. Was it? I might be misremembering. That does happen. It does happen from time to time. To whistle wet with good some tea. Marcus Sassani, I buy cheap brushes from Walmart. Quite a lot of like super experienced painters do that. They buy cheap brushes from Walmart and beat the absolute bejesus out of them and then don't care about them. You know, they are tools. They're a means to an end at the end of the day. They are there to get the paint and the desired effect on our miniatures. We really shouldn't be worrying too much about them, you know? It's like, yeah, and in order to keep a paintbrush perfect, it would end up like Trigger's sweeping brush, you know what I mean? Where he's had it for 20 years. And he's had the same sweeping brush. And it's like he talks about how he's gone through 5 heads and or 7 heads and 5 handles. I don't know the exact quote, but something hilarious like that. You know, in order for us to keep paintbrushes lasting forever, you'd literally have to do something ridiculous like that. You know? It's a really bad and butchered Only Fields and Horses reference. If you didn't get it, you should look it up. It's hilarious. Dave was saying brushes when used with metallic acrylic paints cut the bristles on your brush, e.g. lead belcher. It's like hundreds of tiny metal rays in your brush hairs. Flare brush restore is amazing. Tip here, tipping it, I expect. Yeah, I'm aware that metallics really do ruin them. I remember foundation paints were absolutely packed with pigments. They used to absolutely wreck stuff as well. It just depends what you're using, pretty much. It depends what brush you're using and how you're using it. Like, if you're going to be spending 12 quid on, like, a Winsor Newton Series 7, you shouldn't be base coating Orcs lead belcher with it. That's just like, what? What? What madness is this? Squig Boss is asking, can I put a chip in my build so I can play music and get points? Oh, you're trying to... You want to put like an 8-bit chip into your build so we can play music and earn extra points. if you want to, there's nobody stopping you. But like, if you build something with like an 8-bit chip that plays music, I'm sure Orc Stuff would build a miniature that has, I don't know, a smoke generator, LEDs, and probably like a targeting laser that actually works. So you're more than welcome to it, but you'll start like some sort of extravagant flash gitz uh, war of the shiniest gubbins. So fire away. Keeping up appearances for Hyacinth Bouquet. Yes, yeah. I remember. I would have only been a wee, but I do remember the TV days. It was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. I don't know if the rest of you actually watched it or indeed enjoyed it, but I thought it was pretty funny. 2-inch walloping brush for base coating. Yes, that sounds like there's no messing about there. That sounds like proper progress is made. Yeah, quite a few people have been saying that to me. I think my problem with miniature painting is I started with Games Workshop, so I got used to using Games Workshop size brushes. Whereas I think quite a lot of people are correct in that we should be using bigger brushes, especially for base coating, undercoating, stuff like that. For what I'm doing now, I think this brush size is fine. It's grand. It's not a bother. I don't even know what size it is. I've worn off the size. I don't know, but it's bigger than the large brush or the monster brush even I was using for Army Painter. Now I like the Army Painter brush handles. Those triangular handles are actually quite comfortable to hold. I like them. They're pretty comfortable. I haven't really used that many brushes. It's mostly been like Games Workshop stuff. I have a few Army Painters. And then, like I said, every time I go into an art and hobby store, every now and then, I'll just buy some brushes. Like, so these Humbrol ones were cheap and cheerful. I think I paid £5 or less for them. I understand the value of a brush that just kind of gets the job done. It doesn't need to be like super high end, £10 a paintbrush type job. You know what I mean? Especially if you're trying to get an orc horde done eventually. The last thing you want to be doing is being finicky with your paintbrushes. You just sort of want to get it on there, get it base coated, and get it done. But at the pace I'm going at, I don't know if I can get 2,000 points painted by the end of the year. But like I said, get that airbrush up and running, I'll work wonders. Get some block colours going. If it wasn't for the fact that I've already set up my paint palette and got my colours already picked, I would have tried contrast paints, but I don't know then. It's like, even if you're painting a 2,000 point army, how many pots of contrast paint are you going to go through? And they're like more than £6. Like, it's pretty expensive for what it is. I'm sure there are other methods, but I've seen some decent results. I haven't tried them myself. I like a lot of the results that people can get. You can get some like funky effects using them in combination of contrast paints and standard acrylic paints. I think the best results I've seen off of people have been using contrast paints and then highlighting with the standard highlighting paints that Games Workshop have. But I won't be using them, I'm afraid, because I've already got my palette picked. I just need to get the finger out and get some painting done. A lot of basing probably. With an airbrush would speed it up quite a bit. Like I said, I need to stop using my spray booth. So I have no excuse. Like, I've got a compressor at my foot, I have an airbrush in my shelf, and I've a spray booth beside me here, just acting as a shelf for unbuilt miniatures or miniatures yet to be primed. I go through phases where it's like, I'll build all of these guys, we'll prime them eventually, and then it just doesn't happen. So it's like, stick to it. You know yourself. Get there eventually. Hans Gruber saying, go for it, orc stuff. I think I've still got a smoke generator or two from Smuggy. yeah. Did you rip them out eventually? I remember you saying something to me like they were carcinogenic, hence the reason you didn't use them. So it's like, yeah, that's a good reason not to have a smoke generator in your miniature. Marcus is saying, with these ideas for the build, I doubt I could win. I will just be happy with having a Chinork to use in my games without playing Forge World prizes. Well, Marcos, I do believe Forge World have stopped producing the Chinork Warcopter, so even if you were to try and buy it off of someone now, you would be paying extortionate prices, because that's what tends to happen once Forge World miniatures go out of production. And I don't think that at Forge World they're going to produce any more orc miniatures, because if we look at the line that they have for orcs, it's done nothing but reduce in size over the past 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. They've slowly, over time, they've been slowly phasing out the orc stuff, bit by bit. If I manage to get my hands on an older catalog, you'd realize to the extent that they've phased out a lot of the miniatures. Like, even I only started buying Forge World orc miniatures in 2014, so that's like what? That's 5 years ago now. Which, you know, given enough length of time, is long for some people, but for me, it's like, it's not that long ago. I've been in the hobby quite a few years, and there's quite a few out there who've been in the hobby longer than I. But yeah, all Forge World seem to be doing is phasing stuff out. The fighter bomber that I have, still new in its packet. They don't make that anymore. I have the Orc Squigots. I think they stopped doing that. I didn't buy the Chinork Warcopter because, quite frankly, I thought the miniature was horrendous looking. I have the Battle Fortress, which isn't made by them anymore. I don't know. It's like every time I go back onto the Forge World page to look at stuff, there's always some more miniatures gone. So if you really like the miniatures, buy them. If you're buying them just to use them in game, I wouldn't advise buying Forge World stuff, because I think eventually it's just all going to be phased out. So if you're using it in mainstream games, I think they're just going to phase it out like they're doing with the legendary stuff, which sort of segues into what we were talking about earlier with the legendary units, or legends, or whatever moniker they're using for their phasing out of older miniatures. I was going to make a video about this, but I made one, and then I was like, I watched it, and I don't know. See, the problem is, I found out recently that if you criticize Games Workshop, well, it's something I've always kind of known, but if you criticize Games Workshop in any shape or form, some people could take it quite personally, because I can understand the hobby is a very sort of personal thing for us. Especially if you've been in a really long time like me, you can, you know, it becomes part of your life, you know, almost becoming part of your identity to some people to some extent, which isn't really healthy, but I can understand where people are coming from. So what tends to happen then is if there's any form of criticism, some people can take that form of criticism against Games Workshop personally, even though you're coming from a good place. So I decided not to do the video, not to release it. But I don't know, like, Steve-O's made a video, and I've said to Steve-O that I'll have to make a video in response, because me and Steve-O have two totally different sides of the coin in regards to opinion. Steve-O thinks it's great that we finally get points. If someone wants to link Steve-O's video in the chat, maybe Tim Reaper, since he's an admin, he'd be able to post up a link if folk want to go and see Steve-O's video if they haven't already. So Steve-O thinks it's a great idea, whereas I think it is not a great thing that this is happening, that they're pretty much being phased out. That Games Workshop are slowly phasing some of your older miniatures out, and there's been quite a few arguments for and against. Some people are like, well, you can't expect Games Workshop to to keep rules active for miniatures that have been going for 20 plus years. You can't expect them to keep rules for all of the miniatures that they have. Which my defense would be, well, other war games do it. If you play other war games that have been running for similar amounts of time or longer, you can rock up to a game with your 30-year-old miniature and into a tournament, and you'll still be able to use it. But I can understand where people are coming from in that regard. But yeah, it makes me think back to Magic the Gathering. Like, I think I tried to get into Magic the Gathering like 10 years ago or something like that. And I just decided it wasn't for me because I don't know how Magic is now, and I'm not dissing Magic or Magic the Gathering players. This was just my opinion of the game at that point in time when I was looking to explore other avenues of gaming. Just to get the feelers out there and see if there was anything else I wanted to sort of invest in personally and monetarily. But when I tried to get into Magic the Gathering, it didn't really work for me because at the time it was a case of every 6 months a new set of Magic the Gathering cards would come out. And obviously you'd buy into them and stuff like that. But after 2 years, at that point in time, the set would be out of cycle. So it was like there was a finite lifespan on cards in tournament scenes and drafts and stuff like that. And so there was built-in redundancy, and I wasn't a fan of that. So that was why I didn't get into Magic the Gathering. Now, I don't know if it's like that now. Maybe it's different. And I'm not saying it's a bad game. It's just at that point in time, that was just, I saw it as sort of like a never-ending cycle of putting money into it. And personally, I'm seeing Warhammer is starting to head into that direction because they want us to constantly buy the most up-to-date rule sets. So we're, buying chapter approved, and we're buying Vigilus. There's going to be another rule set coming out, Psychic Awakening. So we're constantly buying rules, and now we're finding that some of the miniatures, yes, they are really old, but we're finding that some of the miniatures that are really old are being phased out, and instead of being replaced with new miniatures, which will be great for new players and old, because I'm sure old players would want some of the newer sculpts. Instead of updating older miniatures and keeping the rules in circulation, they're phasing them out, and bringing in different miniatures that sort of are similar but not quite. So if we look at the Scorchia, the War Buggy, and the Track, so they're being phased out, and they got replaced by 6 new vehicles that are all super trademarkable by name, and that all sort of, I don't know, I'm not too enamored with a lot of the new ones, like the Squig Buggy. I thought was a bit lackluster. I've tried out quite a few of them. The custom Booster Blaster I thought was a decent vehicle. The Shock Junk Dragster I think was just sort of a gimmicky theme, and it was like, oh yeah, it can do this thing. So out of the new range of buggies, I think only 2 of them are really good. I like the BLOODAXE'S Snazwagon and the custom Booster Blaster, which is the one with the rivet gun. The Mechatrack Scrapjet I thought was a bit meh. It's only really good against vehicles, but even still, I don't know, I find some of the new buggies that we got are very expensive for what they do, and they're not really worth it in my eyes, compared to the cheap and cheerful like buggies with rocket launches and scorches and stuff. They were a lot cheaper points wise, so you didn't really care. You'd sort of bring them along, and if they did something, great. If they didn't, you weren't too bothered. You know what I mean? It all depended. But yeah, that's the way I'm seeing things with Games Workshop move along, especially with this whole Legends thing. Us buying a lot of rules. There's a lot of needing to invest into the hobby to stay current, and I'm not a fan of that personally. So I started to look elsewhere for my gaming fix because I don't actually like this current edition of 40k, as controversial as it sounds. And one of the main reasons I don't like this edition of 40k is templates. I really love templates in 40k, but they're gone. They are gone. Maybe they'll bring them back, but I thought they were really narrative and really cool and really fun, and I think orcs actually suffered quite a lot with the templates going. My prime example being burners. So instead of getting D6 shots like other flamethrowers, such as Space Marine ones, our burners got D3 for no reason. Now you'll get, arguments where people will be like, oh, but, we can use theirs in close combat, or we can shoot them. That's why they're D3. Or it's because we all put them into a unit. That's why they only get D3 hits. But it seems a bit gimmicky for me. It's like, well, it had the same power as other flamethrowers until they changed the addition, and now it's weaker in its main role, which is as a flamethrower. And there's other rules that don't really make sense to me in 8th edition 40k, like flamethrowers. You get cover saves against flamethrowers, and you can shoot flamethrowers at aircraft. In fact, you're better off shooting flamethrowers at aircraft because they automatically hit, thus defying the point of aircraft's main way of not being shot with their minuses to hit. So it's like, like, am I the only one who's a bit like, what's the crack with this rule set? Is it me? Maybe I'm just getting too long on the tooth. You know what I mean? I'm turning into an old grumbler. That's what it is. I think it's like a critical mass of wargaming with 40k where you get to a certain stage and you're like, wait a minute, these are fake hands. Maybe. Let's see how the comment section's being rated. Hopefully it's not a dumpster fire. I went on a bit of a ramble there. Maybe. Dave is saying he'll magnetize all the weapons on a truck. GW don't provide the claw on the truck kit, so I had to take it from my battle wagon kit. Why did GW provide incomplete kits in regards to the weapon? I don't know, Dave. Like, what really annoys me is how long is the battle wagon out? And the battle wagon accessory sprue is still separate from the battle wagon kit, the standard battle wagon kit. But then there's like large inconsistency, so I don't see why Games Workshop didn't just make a weapon sprue that has like a rocket launcher and turrets and stuff and all the weapons options that we needed. So it's like, okay, so there's no rocket launcher in the truck kit. That's their justification for taking the rocket out. It's like, well, why don't you make a weapon sprue that's interchangeable throughout the different kits and just add that sprue in with other kits? And it's like, that's what they did with the Wasbomb Blaster Jet. It's like, we already had a flyer, and in order to create another flyer, they literally added one more sprue. So I don't see why Games Workshop can't. There's no reason for them not to do it. It's like, we'll add in another sprue, and we'll charge you an extra few quid. We'll throw a $5 in on top, or whatever. Like, why don't they do that? I'd be happy with that. I'm sure most of you guys would be happy with that because it's win-win. You get extra options for your vehicle, and then you end up with extra bits. But that doesn't seem to be the way that Games Workshop are going, because if we look at the newest kits we've got for the orcs, they're not multi-part plastic. It's all trying to be a single build. I think the last multi-part sort of plastic thing we got was the Gorka Morkanot, because even if we look at the mech guns, you're left with extra bits, but not enough in and of themselves to build an extra gun. They were very crafty in how they did it. If you look at the mech gun, the core of the gun, the bits stick onto it. And you can't stop orc players from building extra guns out of stuff. We'll build it out of anything really. But it's an interesting. Marco saying painting a Stompa next and then a Gorkanot and you'll be most of the way there. Oh yeah, if I paint 2 Stompas, I'd have a 2,000 point army. Definitely. Just get the airbrush out. I think Steve-O would probably class that as cheating, but you know, if Games Workshop bump up the points from about 670, 650 for a stomp up to 1,000 points, it's like, hey, 2,000 point army. It'd be absolutely terrible army, but you know, it'd be a 2,000 point orc army. Just need more and more Lord of War. I have a kill tank, hold on. So if I take 2 stompers and a kill tank, that is pretty much a detachment. That's like a super heavy Lord's War. There you go. You may have hit a nail on the head. Tim Reaper saying, I don't think Forge World wants anyone's money anyway. I don't know. People do buy Titans for the same price as like second-hand cars. It's like 1,500 quid for a Warlord Titan. Maybe a bit more. And that's pound sterling, so somebody's buying something. It's not orcs. They were saying, are those orc miniatures from Forge World that they've phased out going to appear in Warhammer Legendary website? I have no idea, Dave. I wouldn't put any money on it, but that's just cynical old me at this stage. Marcos, I wish I had purchased their battle wagon and the fighter bomb when I had the chance. Still can't bring myself to pay so much for the Gargantuan Squiggoth. I know, man. I was looking at getting the Gargantuan Squiggoth, but it's just stupid money, man. It really is. I think it's the only other thing I'd want to buy off of Forge World, but I don't think I have it in me. Because it's like, for the price that you'd pay for that Gargantuan Squiggoth, I could literally start into another war game. Yeah. So it's like, what? I don't know. I don't think I'll buy the Gargantuan Squiggoth. I don't think it fits into the BLOODAXE'S anyway. I just think it was sort of me wanting to buy it for the sake of buying it, but not for the price. I think it's like €260 or something crazy. And that's like, yeah, that's big money, man. Obviously, it's not like Millennium Falcon Ultimate Collector Series €800 big money, but you know what I mean. Tim Ripper is saying there will be college kids playing 8th edition who have spent more on rules in a year and a half than a parent who played 4 or 5 previous editions. What a ripoff. Pretty much, yep. I miss the days of rule books lasting more than 2 years or having to constantly be updated every year. It kind of, yeah. Orc stuff saying jack of all trades gimmick buggies, talking about the buggies. Yeah, I'm not impressed with the buggies. Squigboss saying he likes the jet. The jet is pretty cool looking. I just have not really. I think the only flyer I really like for the orcs is the Bornabomber. The Bornabomber or the Daka jet. The Blitzerbomber, the one that sort of nosedives. I've always found that like it was a good concept piece. Like a Ju-88 sort of thing, you know, dive bomber. You'd think it would be really good, but I found it just a bit lackluster. But sure, what can you do? Dave is saying, what will you do QFQ? Don't quite understand that one, Dave. It's a FAQ. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Hans Gruber, sleepy nighty snoozy snooze. Great episode of Fattered Head. Great episode. Oh, I've sent them off on a rant. Here we go. Or maybe the current zeitgeist of we're listening has created a here we go. Self-defeating echo chamber. Maybe, DM, maybe. We're not all as cynical as you. Thankfully. Yet the Death Roller can take 4... yet the Death Ray can take 4 custom Mega Blasters. Yeah, I know. There's inconsistencies when it comes to the Orc Codex. It's like, they seem to be phasing out stuff like you can't have the rocket launcher on the truck because it doesn't come with the kit. And Dim Reaper's right, that's another thing we've highlighted before. But you can take, the Death Tread can take 4 custom Mega Blasters, even though there's not 4 custom Mega Blasters on the kit. It's like other units were phased out, like Mega Armored Warboss, because it doesn't have a miniature, and yet we get Knob Bikers who don't actually have miniatures. They have Forge World ones. But then why aren't they in the Forge Worlds? Do you know what I mean? Bit of consistency, you know? But it's just, I don't know. Gilly Guy 52 is saying, I hate that the Warboss can't have Mega Armor, but Knobs can. Why does the biggest baddest orc in the Horde have the worst kit than his underlings? It's almost like Games Workshop don't care. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? See, I'm biased, gents. You all know I'm biased at this stage because I only play orcs. So when I see stuff like the Mega Armored Warboss not being included in our current edition codex, which I think is the only... I think the last time that there wasn't a Mega Armored Warboss was 2nd edition? I could be wrong about that. There was definitely one in 3rd, 4th. We didn't get a codex in 5th. Or 6th. The 7th edition one we had a Mega Armored Warboss. I've lost my train of thought now. I'm biased, that's right. I'm biased in my opinion because I only play orcs. So when I see for our latest codex that there's no Mega Armored Warboss, which is like a core HQ choice for the army, it's like one of the staples of the army. We don't have, we're very glass hammers. We don't have much survivability because they took our cyborg body options away from us that we used to have in 4th in the 7th edition codex. So we don't have much survivability. So then the fact that they take away the Mega Armored Warboss from orcs and leave it in the index, and people were saying, oh, it's fine, you can just use the index rules. And I said, as soon as I saw the codex, that we don't depend on the index because it will be phased out eventually. This is why I said it in 2 Bald Up episodes, where I specifically no longer took options in my orc armies that were outside of the codex, because myself, having spent 22, 23 years in the Games Workshop sort of sphere of the hobby, I know what they're like. They do shenanigans like this, and lo and behold, they're being phased out. But the point I was trying to make, but keep segueing and rambling away from, is if Space Marines lost Space Marine Captain in Terminator armor took out of the Space Marine Codex, there would literally be protests outside of Games Workshop's HQ. And this is how I get a little annoyed about it, because it's like, we're orc players, they don't, you know, when you hear me saying that they don't care about orcs and orc players, it's because of things like that. It would be, if they did exactly the same thing to a different faction, all, you know, there'd be pandemonium. Like, imagine if they did take away Space Marine Captains or in Terminator armor or whatever they are. I don't look at Space Marine Codexes, clearly. If they did that sort of thing to a different faction, it would be like hell to pay, but yet they sort of managed to get away with doing the orcs. You can understand my slight irritation on the matter. Who else has been rambling on? What are the trigger words? Trigger words have been said to set me off. Team Reaper is saying the Gargantuan was £220 when I bought it. Now it's 285 or something silly. Did inflation go up by £65? No, it bleeping didn't. No, it didn't. Really didn't. But we're not allowed to question the pricing of these things. If you can't afford to pay for the hobby, then you should quit. Seems to be something I hear quite a lot out of defenders of the hobby. Underdog Paintings here. What is the crack, Underdog Painting? How are you? I went into a bit of a ranty ramble there. I do apologise. I apologise if I brought down the tone of the stream, gents, but I'm just sort of saying it as I see it. That's all. I'm being honest. All I can do is share my honest opinion. But yeah, so I'm currently less than pleased with Games Workshop, but if you're happy playing Games Workshop games and you really like this edition of the rule set, and you're really liking the direction the Games Workshop's going in, that's fine. I have no problem with that. If I'm criticising Games Workshop and I'm not happy with them, doesn't mean that I'm trying to piss in your parade. Anything but. If you're having fun with the hobby, fair play to you. I have no issue with that. I think some people sort of forget that. I'm criticising the company. I'm not criticising anyone's fun. If you're having great crack with the hobby, that's cool. I'm actually happy for you. Fair play. You know what I mean? But for me personally, at the moment, I'm not enjoying 40k. I'm not enjoying the current edition codex for reasons I've already said. Phasing out of some of the core miniatures in the army, like Mega Armored Warboss. Shafting of orc units where other units didn't get shafted. Borna boys. You know, there's all little tidbits, bits and pieces. Now, it's not all terrible. I do like some of the clan rules, but I just think it's a bit gimmicky, you know what I mean? I'm just not happy with it. But whatever. I'm not enjoying it at the moment. Doesn't mean you can't. But yet, you still see me sitting here painting gruts. Because I care about painting some of the miniatures. I don't know. It's weird. I might be shifting. There's like a pie chart that everyone has. Where it's like gaming, miniature like assembly and customization and painting. And I think what's happening with me personally at the moment is my priorities with 40k are shifting. Because predominantly, I really enjoyed playing the game, especially in 5th edition. Like, holy smokes, man. I played the absolute bejesus out of 5th edition and loved it. Now, 5th edition wasn't perfect. It had some flaws. There were wound allocation shenanigans, exploits that people could exploit. A lot of the codexes near the end of 5th edition were severely overpowered. I think it was the edition where power creep accelerated quite a lot, especially near the end. And it was the edition that we saw things like flyers and such be brought into the game. We saw, I think that's the problem is, I think 5th edition was the last edition of 40k where it was a small, still sort of smallish scale tabletop war game. And it mutated from that point where we see bigger vehicles, like, do you remember back in the day, like for you old school gamers, where Dreadnought used to be huge? Like, do you remember? It'd be like, oh man, that Dreadnought's like huge and massive. Whereas if you look at a Dreadnought now, in scale to some of the other miniatures you're going to see on the table, you're like, he just looks like a foot soldier. You know what I mean? It's the scale of the game has gotten massive, and it's gotten way out of hand. In my opinion, it's like we're supposed to be. These are wargaming miniatures. We're supposed to play a war game with them. Therefore, we're expected to transport them to play a game. Like 9 times out of 10, we're expected to bring the miniatures to a location. And if they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, it's going to be like, well, I need a car. It's like, not to commute to work. It's for my wargaming miniatures so I can bring them to a game. I actually need a car at this stage. You know what I mean? It'll get to that stage for some people. So it's just crazy, man, when you look back at it. From where the hobby's gone to where it is now. And then other people love that. It's like, oh, bigger miniatures. Sort of more finely detailed miniatures. That's cool. Absolutely cool. Like I said, someone's having some great crack with the hobby now. Fair play to you. I'm just not as in love with 40k as I used to be. I'm not quitting. I'm just not as... I've sort of got one foot off the bandwagon, kind of. Ish. Dim Reaper, but Scare, we got yet another Primaris captain. Is it not Primaris Lieutenant? I'm not too sure. Primaris something or other. I find that funny as well that we don't see many. New Well, hold on. You know, I'm not one to be quoting on Imperial stuff, so I have a question for everyone in the stream. Feel free to answer it. Have they actually released any bog standard Space Marine units or characters since 8th edition start? Or has everything been Primaris and characters have been transformed into Primaris characters? Has it only been Primaris stuff? My perception seems to be that they've only brought out Primaris units and Primaris characters, or characters reworked as Primaris characters. So we're seeing, if that's the case, then we're literally seeing standard Space Marines being phased out, which is a great idea for Games Workshop in regards to being a moneymaker, because a large chunk of their sales overall are Space Marines. So if you phase out, sorry for hitting the mic, if you phase out a Space Marine collector's army very slowly, so that his collection of Space Marines are no longer going to be viable, and replace them with Primaris Marines, you're basically getting the same guy to buy the same army twice. See what I mean? So I think there's a lot of that going on. Wasn't there a special event Primaris? Gilly guy is saying only Primaris. Yeah, that's what I thought, man. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. Like I said, when I didn't get into Magic, there's a lot of this phasing out of miniatures and cycling in of stuff, which I'm not massively a fan of. I don't see why you can't use your miniatures that you've collected over a long period of time later down the line. You know what I mean? I'd like there to be some permanence to them for playing the game. But like I said, maybe my direction with the hobby is changing and shifting away from playing the game and more doing hobby stuff and running building competitions that I really enjoy, actually. If you're ever wondering why I actually bother to do these vehicle building competitions, it's because I want to see other people be creative. I like seeing people's creativity sort of blossom into something. It's always good to give orc players some stimulus. It's like, here, you know, try win some free loot, build something. Worst case scenario, you don't win a prize, but at the end of the competition, you'll have a new vehicle. Unless you're me and, you know, you don't get around to it. Dave is saying, hey, Underdog, what's your latest project? You finished those deck cards yet, I take it? Deck cards do look nice, I have to say. And 2nd edition Warboss can have mega armor for 25 points. So maybe it's Rogue Trader hands. Maybe Rogue Trader was the edition that we didn't have mega armor Warbosses. That and 8th edition. Underdogs talking about painting stuff. Chaos, nice. Hands is saying you would think that only the Force Company Space Marine Captain could have Terminator armor. You know, rarity isn't really a thing in the 40k universe. Like, technology is supposed to be old and rare, but everyone has it. It's like, meh. Marcus is saying, where are 6+ Stevo's Dread Captain and Green Tide? They're probably off being busy. I don't know. I try and keep it consistent, though, for the stream. I try and keep it for the same time slot, so 9 till 11. Because I know it's kind of late, so it's like... My train of thought is, most people will have Sundays off. If you don't, then maybe you finished work. But if you have kids, you have time to put your kids away and then have some time to yourself. And then also our cousins over the other side of the Atlantic would also get a chance to watch as well. Orc stuff. Do you not remember the old Rogue Trader Dread? I did. Now, the Rogue Trader stuff was before my time. I got into 40k around... I got into the hobby, I think, around 1997. I knew of the hobby before then, but I didn't get my Force miniatures until 1997. So I think I knew of 40k around 96, 95. I would have known about the hobby. I didn't actually get my Force miniatures until 1997. So when I knew of 40k, it was before 3rd edition came out, but I didn't actually start buying 40k until 3rd edition came out. So Rogue Trader Dreadnoughts are a bit before my time, but I do have some. If you're referencing the cardboard Dreadnought, that would be the 2nd edition one. I don't have a cardboard one, but I do have a 2nd edition Dreadnought, which is hilarious. Marcus is saying, I'd love to see as many knobs released as Primaris Late Tenets. So would I, Marcos, but I don't know if that's going to happen, to be honest with you. Maybe. You know, maybe if we all band together and buy out large shares of Games Workshop's stock, we can demand it from them. I don't know. Apparently they listen to their shareholders, so we just sort of need to hedge our bets and buy GW stock. Pocactus is saying they are cutting all Space Marine players out. That's the general feeling I get. I don't play Space Marines, but that is the general feeling that I am getting, is that old Space Marine players are being phased out, which is a pity. Because I'm sure there's a lot of folk who have invested a lot of time, effort, and love into their Space Marine armies, and they're just slowly phasing them out. Do you know what I would have thought it would have been a great idea, right? You guys are going to phase out, like, Games Workshop's going to phase out the Primaris Marines, okay? Because the Primaris Marines have been brought in to replace the Space Marines. I don't understand why Games Workshop didn't do, like, some kick-ass event where they're like, right, Primaris are coming in, the old Space Marines aren't happy about it, there's a civil war, and then have the players play out a civil war event. And then if the bog standard Space Marines manage to hold out, then, you know, they'll keep Space Marines around, and if they don't, then they'll just slowly wipe them. You know what I mean? That would have been interesting. Whereas, where it's just based on rules being updated slowly over time, and then the justification would be, oh, well, we haven't updated Space Marine miniatures in a long time, so we'll phase them out. It'll be like, well, yeah, but you didn't update the Space Marine miniatures in a long time because you wanted to phase them out. You get me? I don't like people's hands being forced in that regard. But, yeah, I thought they could have done something interesting with it. Not that I'm wholly against it, but I just don't like the idea of someone's collection slowly being phased out over time. I think it's a bit underhanded for my likings. But that's just me, you know? Dave is saying there have been a few special editions Space Marines, named ones for the GW store anniversaries, some new post Space Marines, Terminators for those, Japanese Space Marine boxes, and that's it. Oh yeah, the weird collector series. They're not the same scale though. They're different, aren't they? They're kind of bigger-ish. They were saying at this rate, Space Marines are going to be the Gretchens of the Imperium. Yeah, because I know they're larger in scale. But speaking of scale, if you look at some of the Gretchen miniatures, right? The old Rogue Trader orcs that are like hunched over with their little bolters are the same size as some of these Gretchen, like. So the scale creep is crazy. Especially when you look at some of the older miniatures. The scale creep gets kind of... I'm trying to see if I have any really old miniatures. I think the oldest miniatures I have on my desk for orcs at the moment are these second edition commandos around here. And then if I was to compare it, a little dusty. If I was to compare the second edition commandos against the current edition orc boys, these are with the forgeable bits. If I was to compare the two, you can sort of, you know, you can see that the newer one, and by newer, like this plastic kit that we use is pretty much 20 years old, so it's due an update at some stage, but I do enjoy it. You can see that, you know, in general, the game, the scale creep has gotten bigger and bigger. In fact, look, I have some old school, you know, I don't have any bog standard Space Marines, but I was going to send these off to someone and I forgot about it. If you look at the old school, this is a Rogue Trader Space Marine Scout. Some old school stuff. He's missing his dagger. I don't even know how I came about this guy. But if you look at the size comparison, I don't have a Space Marine Scout handy. Or do I? Maybe I should have one for Kill Team here somewhere. I don't know. I didn't prepare that far ahead. Sadly. But yeah, like you can see with some of the older stuff, it's a bit smaller, but it's a lot of character. I really like some of the old like Rogue Trader sculpts because they do have a lot of like character to them, lots of little pouches and stuff. They don't have the technical flexibility that the new plastics have. The new plastics are very crisp, but there's something charming about old lead miniatures or metal miniatures, hand sculpted type of stuff, that I feel that newer CAD design miniatures seem a bit soulless, a bit dead. You know what I mean? They don't have as much texture to them. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. You can love the new CAD miniatures more so. Like some of these plague dudes, who I don't remember the name of them, like they can seem a bit bubbly. They're very smooth in parts, and then they are textured in some parts. But I don't like it. It looks alright. Like it's not a terrible miniature. This one isn't complete, obviously, but I just find it's a bit flat, a bit dead. There's not as much character to it. You know what I mean? But that's just me personally. Each to their own. Orc stuff is saying, 97 was the proper dread sock dread. Yes. For those of you who don't know, dread socking is putting a metal dreadnought into your sock when someone was real lawyering and then twacking them with it. So you'd dread sock them, get them like that. But with plastic dreadnoughts, it doesn't have the same sort of gravity to it, you know. Hans is saying, here we go, army list. Orc Warboss can have power armor for 6 points. Flesh Terror should stay as the original one. 6 points for power armor. Back when, yes, orcs used to get power armor. Imagine that. Times have changed greatly indeed. Marcus, I've started touring the third-party companies. Started touring to the third-party companies. I just bought a Cromlech Iron Reich War Chief, just waiting to get it in the mail now. I like the third-party stuff. I no longer really play in Games Workshops, so I don't have a problem with it. But there is a disadvantage to playing using third-party miniatures if A, you ever go to Warhammer World, or B, your only opportunity to play is in a Games Workshop. You are shafted if you're using third-party bits or third-party miniatures. But if neither of those cases apply to you, fire away. Use as many third-party bits and stuff. There are producers out there who I think produce stuff better than Forge World, a lot cheaper. There are a lot of good third-party guys, the likes of Cromlech and stuff. I have a few Cromlech bits knocking around myself. Some extra legs. Foxbox are good. Spellcrow do some of them. I think Ramshackle Games do bits. There's loads of them. There's absolutely zogging loads of them. There's loads of third-party bits providers. There's the green one. There's, like, I'll remember as I go through. If I haven't mentioned the third-party bits provider, feel free to comment in the comment section for the other people. There's loads of them. There's that, like, shake a tree and a third-party orc bits provider will fall to the ground because they fill the gaps the Games Workshop left and never filled. So, you know. Squig Boss, I think GMW is making the Orc Boy bases bigger because there's a new Orc Boy box coming with bigger orcs. Squig Boss, I think you make a very good and valid point because we see the same thing that happened. If we looked at, these are made out of bog standard Space Marines. Well done, genius. So I could have compared bog standard Orc, Rogue, Trader, Space Marine against this is a Iron Hands Chaos Space Marine made from literally tactical Space Marine. It is literally just a tactical Space Marine made with a Chaos backpack. The rest of it's just bog standard Space Marine. And this is a Rogue Trader era Space Marine who would have a heavy weapons. Now, obviously his pose is a bit hunched over and stuff, but even still, it's like, look at the size change from there to there. And I don't have a Primaris Space Marine, but that Plague Marine that we had earlier is pretty much like the size of a Primaris Marine, dude. I have this because I was subscribed to the Conquest magazine series for a while. I was getting my brother into the hobby just to paint a bit. And I sort of cancelled the subscription after a while because it cost an arm and a bloody leg. So, it was that. But yeah, you can sort of kind of see there. It's like little to large. The game has scaled quite a bit. I forget what point I was trying to make. Oh yes, I was talking about bases. Yes, so they upped the base size when they were still Marines. I think it was a year or two out before they brought out the Primaris Marines for no reason. And then magically the Primaris Marines came along. So I think Orc stuff has hit the nail on their head, and I have said it before myself. I think the base size increase in Orc Boys is that in a couple of years, or however far down the line they decide to do it, we will see the current Orc Boy kit be phased out. It will be, what will be brought in will be a bigger Orc Boy kit that won't be multi-part plastic or posable as much as what we have now. I think it'll be somewhere along the lines of, if you look at even Plague Marines and stuff. You know what I mean? You'll see, like, they'll be hard to convert. They'll have a lot of detail. They'll be very crisp, but they'll be hard to convert. I think we will see larger Orc Boys. I think the game will scale up again and get bigger. Bigger for us, because with some of the wider poses, yeah, that looks alright, but I never had a problem with Orc Boys overstepping their bases, because even if you look at the very first Rogue Trader Orc Boys from back in the day, they overstood. Their feet came off the base anyway, a little bit. Some of the characters. Overstepping, overstood. Like, English is not my strong point. Well done. But yeah. These are the only guys I have on 32mm bases because they are the Kill Team Borna Boys. I forget the specific name for them, but that's why they're in green plastic. I actually quite like the green plastic, even though it's a little weirder to work with. But I don't see why Orc Sprues shouldn't in default be green. I think it would be pretty classy. Pretty classy indeed. But yeah, I think there's going to be new Orc Boy kits that are going to be bigger again. Absolutely massive. Tim Reaper saying Primaris will need to be a Marine replacement in the same way that Space Marines were bestsellers if they made models on a regular for other factions. Well, yeah. I do feel that Games Workshop put all their eggs in one basket with Space Marines. It can get a bit boring for non-Marine players, but if you're a Space Marine player, you're absolutely loving it. I think some of the new miniatures that are coming out for Space Marines are pretty much living memes, but that's my opinion. I'm sure there's lots of people who will disagree and absolutely love some of the Space Marine stuff, but I just think it's hilarious. Oh, Cactus is saying, I fear that if they upgrade the boys kit, it will make them knob size and monopose. I love the boys kit. I would share in your opinion, Poe Cactus. So I do think they're going to be about knob size, and I do think that they are going to be very restricted and very monopose when they do up the size of them. I don't think we will get as much kit bashing or customization, arm swapping, head swapping that we have. I think it will be twofold. One, because they'll want to up the size of them to get new people to invest in them. But two, if they make them monopose, all those third-party bit suppliers that have made bits to fit on the Orc torsos that are currently in circulation will suddenly provide bits for a base plastic kit that no longer exists. So Games Workshop will kill two birds with one stone. They'll have an incentive for current players to buy new miniatures because they're up in scale, and they'll undermine the third-party bit suppliers out there if they're no longer compatible and it's not a multi-part plastic kit. So yes, I strongly think that Games Workshop will pull some upscaling and monopose shenanigans for new Orc kits. So in that regard, I wouldn't really look forward to them. They'd have to be absolutely shockingly amazing. But they're doomed to failure in my eyes because I'm biased, pretty much. At least I'm honest. Dim Reaper saying Cromlech Grot tanks are better than Forge World Grot tanks. Far better. It's probably because Cromlech don't dip their miniatures in mold release before, or dip their molds in mold release before casting stuff. Like, I've never come across stuff with as much mold release as Forge World stuff. Like, it's super greasy. Think of like a greasy, I don't know, burger or something. I'm trying to think of something. Think of a burger that if you threw it against the wall and it left a grease mark, that's like a Forge World miniature. That's how greasy they are. Obviously, they need mold release to come out of molds, but sweet Jesus, what a lot. Dave is like, that's not surprising. True. Orc stuff. Cromlech do really good Orc heads, but they are very distinctive. Put two in the same unit, they're pretty obvious. Stupidly enough, the GW ones aren't as obvious because they're so bland. Yeah, I like the aesthetics of an Orc face, to each their own. Some people absolutely love the Cromlech stuff. For me, the Orc faces that we have in the standard kits are what sort of drew me to Orcs in the first place, was the aesthetic and the freedom of creativity being another thing. But yeah, I find that like Spellcrow I like that different third-party suppliers, bits providers for Orcs have different takes on an Orc face. And some of them are awesome, and then some of them I think are a bit like hit and miss. I've been rambling on so much that I've forgotten to keep painting my grot bases. Don't worry, we will be posting up a link to the Discord, so do that right now. I'll show up link to the Discord. So we have a work in progress link or thread for the live streams. If you are painting along, I'm going to throw a link into the Discord, and feel free to throw your work in progress of your project as you're painting along with us. We'll have a look before we finish up the stream, see what people have been up to, what progress you have made, and hopefully you've made a lot more than what I've done, because by Christ, I do more talking than painting in these live streams than anything else, but they're still good crack. Dim Reaper saying, has anyone added bits from a Toy Story Woody to the new Primaris thread? Oh god. Hans Gruber is saying, best stock up on Orc boys. Most third party are better than Forge World. Yeah, there is a bit of that. Cheaper too. As for stacking up on boys, I'm well ahead of the game. Don't worry. I think I got ahead of the game and stocking up for standard orc boys about 10 years ago, so I don't need to buy any. But if you're new in, you just want to stock up on plastic bits, it's probably a good idea. Now the current orc plastic kit isn't perfect. That much I will say. If we look at the where's a prime example? If we look at the kit, it does have some of its downfalls. The butt sort of sticking up and the C-shaped spine. That aspect of the sculpt I don't like. So it's not perfect, but yeah, this aspect of it here, where the butt's sort of there and then the front is a bit odd. I don't see why they didn't shunt that back a bit and straighten up a spine and a bit more. I know orcs are supposed to be hunched over, but I think the fact that his neck isn't up, it comes outwards, would have accentuated that enough. So I don't see what he could have made him a bit bigger in that regards, with straightening their spine out instead of having a sort of C-shaped spine and a butt sticking out. Or what was it someone said? They're like sexy Flanders sculpt. It's a Simpsons reference. It's hilarious where he just has his butt sticking out, and yeah, it's that sort of sculpt. So the thing I don't like about those sculpts is their spines and their butts sticking out. But apart from that, I quite like the orc boys. They're pretty charming and do have a charm to them. But yeah, they'll go the way of this plastic kit here. So this is the Fantasy Orc plastic kit, which is no longer produced, which was 100% compatible with the 40k orc kit back in the days where Games Workshop were like, oh, Fantasy Orcs, 40k orcs, mash them together, make what you want. Hey! Those days are long gone, folks. Long gone. Dim Reaper is saying Cromlech GTs also each come with every weapon option. Oh, Cromlech Grot Tanks. Yes, that is a fair point. If you go to buy the Grot Tanks off of Forge World, they do not come with every weapon option. If you go to buy them off of Cromlech, each Grot Tank will come with every single option. So it's like, they're cheaper and you get more options. What's not to like? Win-win. One would argue they are better sculpts. I know Dim Reaper would. I don't own any of them, so I'm not of that opinion yet. But yeah, I can understand it. Pocactus is saying, if they phase out the boys kit, it will break the entire army, but not buy new orc stuff. I like their sizes now. I get you. I have enough of the orc stuff myself to not need to switch over. But if they up the size of the orcs, I can guarantee you'll get a whole new swathe of orc players. And if they make orcs really powerful and bring out a new orc sculpt, you'll see a whole new phase of people jump onto the orc bandwagon for a while and then disappear off again, because we've seen it happen. It happens. People jump onto new armies for being competitive, but I think it would be a sort of short-sighted, not really. Mind you, Games Workshop at this point in time, in my opinion, are pretty short-sighted in regards to their sales. It's all about instant sales, not the sort of slow burn. It's their own, whatever. Like I said, I'm a bit biased at this point in time, but if you're enjoying the hobby, fair play to you. Fair play to you. Orc Stuff is saying, if they make the monopose, then the third-party bit suppliers will have a field day making alternate heads and arms to replace those cut off from the monopose kits. But that is it, Orc Stuff. The only thing that would happen is that they'd invalidate the current stuff they have for the multi-part plastic kit. But there is, you literally can't stop people from making third-party bits, because head swaps, you know what I mean? People will put it. Games Workshop could just make it more difficult for people to buy third-party bits or customize their orcs and swap out bits. That's because it's literally, you can't stop people from cutting a pistol out of a hand and putting a third-party gun on instead. It's the same with swords, choppers, you know what I mean? Backpacks and stuff. If you bring out a new sculpt, someone can bring out a new backpack for that sculpt. Like, you literally, it'll change to whatever sort of form factor Games Workshop go forward with. They can't stop third-party bits providers. They can just make it harder to convert miniatures, which is the direction I think they've intentionally gone in, because they want to control your hobby more than ever, in regards to what you can and can't use and what isn't and isn't acceptable. That's why I think we've seen Games Workshop doubling down on third-party bits. Everything needs to be WYSIWYG. You know, things literally have to be exactly as they're described in a codex. If the unit doesn't have an entry in the codex, then it's not. Do you know what I mean? I think that's why they're doubling down on a lot of that stuff, because it's becoming easier and easier for people to design and make their own miniatures, because we're seeing the rise of 3D printers, especially resin 3D printers. You can get cheap enough ones now. You could design an orc miniature from scratch. You know what I mean? So, where Games Workshop's going to be in another 10 years, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, the rise of 3D printers is taking a chunk out of it. But then, if Games Workshop come out with mantras where they're like, no third-party bits, no 3D printed bits, that type of thing, you know, how's that going to affect them in the long run, you know? We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe we'll see Citadel 3D printers, resin 3D printers in the future, where we just buy files off them, or rent files, or something like that. Maybe. Maybe. That would be interesting, to say the least. But yeah. Dave is saying, for orcs tonight, all I've done is prime a truck, white Vallejo, and spray the metal truck parts with lead belcher. Oh yeah, for the yellow. Nice. Well, you've got more done than me. I managed to get grey on 9 grots. Very slowly. The grey is actually alright. I kind of like it. I think I will actually spray this grey onto the bases. This German grey. So I found a nice alternative to using a Games Workshop colour. Happy days. Win-win. I'll stick with that. Tim is saying, defo better sculpts. I love that boxes, says Squigbox Mad Noms. Which box? You're confusing me now. Well. Team Reaper, that's why GW are going tourney focused. They can control what minis are used in that space. Yes, I would agree. Games Workshop are doubling down on the tournament scene, which is why I think the Legends stuff is being phased out. The fact that it's no longer tournament legal. The tournaments are now the focus of Warhammer 40k. If something isn't tournament legal, it falls to the wayside. Anything else is just pandering to the old fogies to shut them up and say, well, we give you the rules. It's like chapter approved. We got our looted wagon rules back, but they gave us open play. It's like, well, all the games that I play down in my local store are all match play rules. Nobody in my local store personally has ever offered to play an open play game with me. It's always been match play rule sets, and tends to be what's ever legally usable. Once you haven't played a game of 40k in a couple of months now, we've been busy playing BattleTech, but shh, we won't. Don't say a game, you know what I mean? Jesus, you'll start a riot or something. I'll be saying that. Playing a different war game, how dare I? Right, German Grey. Oh, the boxes. Yeah, I get you. Right, so I think, has everyone put in their works in progress into the Discord? We can have a look-see. Have you all been put in the right place, the live stream work in progress, or have you been putting in chewing the fat? It'd be hilarious if people have been posting stuff in the wrong place. Dude, that might actually help. In progress. Granny in tonight. I see Kyle's been designing something again. Fair play to him. We'll go have a look at the live stream work in progress. Nobody else is posting anything. Nope. Alright, cool. Let's go have a gander. So I go to this thing and I press, haha! Hopefully that brings it up. Orc stuff. Saying, what sort of percentage of GW customers do tournaments? Be very surprised if it's more than 10%. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if it's more than 10%, but they dictate where the focus of the game goes. So, while they might be a small percentage, they have a large percentage of influence, I think is the problem. So let's have a look. Orca Marcos. Working on the Orc boys. I remember. Yeah, because your unit is a mixed bag, so it's like Assault and Blackreach boys. It's standard Orc boys. It's like old Rogue Trader, 2nd edition. A mixed bag. I like it. Some nice progress being made. Very nice. Little tufts of grass and everything. Looking sweet. Looking sweet indeed. Now, where do I put that bottle of fat? Just yapping. I ran out of tea, lads. What's the... Look. Orc heavy weapon. Rogue Trader. Like, now, do you remember we were talking about scale creep? So, current Orc sculpt. Yeah, this guy here. My apologies about opening the bottle. Rogue Trader Orc sculpt with heavy weapon right beside him. Look at that size comparison. He doesn't even come up to his shoulder. You see what I mean? Well, very nice. Nice progress. Gorka Marcos. Nice progress indeed. And this is the horde of 2nd edition Gretchen. I'm liking your basin, man. It looks nice. Are you painting these guys up with contrast? That would be smart money indeed to get that on. If you're doing them in contrast, that would probably slowly save your sanity instead of having the hand paint. Really help. But yeah, I like it. This finished DOD looks sweet. Nice progress. Chipping away at the gits. Oh, Grumpy Viking. Custom ogres for Blood Bowl. Yes, I have more money than sense. Oh yeah, the ninjas and the characters, the pirates. Are these the man-eaters? I can't remember exactly for ogres. But making these for Blood Bowl, is this my fault? That you're starting to play Blood Bowl, these guys? For anyone who didn't know, we do have a Chaos Blood Bowl thing going. And DM may have suffered the wrath of an Ogre Blood Bowl team, so I'm not surprised he's making an Ogre Blood Bowl team. Some characters that look sweet. Yeah, sweet, look. Nice compare. Is this a screw? I like it. Yeah, so this is a heavy weapons Rogue Trader Orc with a heavy bolter because we didn't have individual weapon types and we didn't have big shooters until 3rd edition, I think. Everyone used to just have bolters and heavy bolters, like everyone had them. So that's orcs used to have heavy bolters. So heavy bolter Rogue Trader Orc, and then 3rd edition 20-year-old plastic sculpt. So then the next version we'll see of orcs will probably be like yay tall, probably come up to here, be big enough. They'll be massive is what they'll be. The Gorka Marcos is sharing his scale creep with us there. Hans is started painting a new Mad Max mini war boss for my Dead Skulls. Wars Daka Snagga, not sure which head to give him. Oh, is this? Ooh, that's a nice head. Like that one. Looks swank. I've seen this one before. It's this I'm trying to remember the. Is it Max Mini? I think it might be Max Mini. Another third-party producer. I haven't seen this one before, but I have seen this used in one of Kyle's war bosses, and it looks sweet. So that's I've seen this head before, and it looks sweet. I've yet to see this painted up, so I'd be interested. Either or. Ah, very nice. Pretty sizable. If they're same size squares as on my cutting mat, this is a sizable war boss. Nice green skin you've got going. Obviously painting them from the inside out. Great, I look forward to seeing them finished. That's his Daka. That is some sizable Daka he's got going on. And a mini nuke. I like it. You should paint a Fat Boy on it or something. Nice Fallout 3 reference. Squig Boss is making a start. He's got himself a boom gun. I think this is the start of your building progress. Or your building project. Nice. Nice box. Nice solid start. Oh, where did you get this from? Did you rip it off of a toy? It kind of reminds me of the main gun off of a basilisk. But it's not quite the same. Or I could be wrong. Maybe it is out of a basilisk and he just ripped it up. Sort of fashion after the 88 that the recoil. Hydraulic piston is for recoil on the top. I'd always wondered what they were for on the 88mm flak cannons when I was younger. For recoil. Grumpy Viking. Oh, made some more progress. Obviously posting as we went along in the stream. He's a Blood Bowl Ogre team. Yes, he does have more money than sense. You are, yeah, definitely. Oh, like, is this like in the Chaos Edition? Are there going to be like little snotling players? That'll be class. I see a Nulblar in the corner there, so maybe using Nulblars as the snotlings. That'd be class. We've got Rust Crush has brought Mega Tank work in progress. Very nice. Nice aircraft carrier start. I'm liking the triple big shooter anti-aircraft mount. It's a Skarnir seal of approval for a good start. Stick on some tracks. Yeah, that'd be super swank. Or you could make it like a land battleship. If anybody's ever played Supreme Commander, it's like the Cyberns can get battleships that get legs coming out of them. That'll look super class. Orc stuff. Not much progress yet. Oh, for anyone who doesn't quite get this, Orc stuff with his projects, he uses sheet metal as the base and then he sculpts over it with mini pull. So there was a rule I made for it where it's like you need to post up your first image. So this is the start of Orc Stuff's project. I look forward to seeing your progress and knowing your previous projects in the past. See you later, Dim. Enjoy work. Knowing your previous projects in the past, it will look absolutely class. So remember, folks, take a nice mental image. It's amazing what you can do with a sheet metal and milliput. And I think them's the progress images we have. Let's get back to painting some stuff. So good progress. Thanks for sharing the projects or the start of them, depending on what whereabouts you were with them. And get some more gruts painted. I do have a whole bag of gruts that I bought off of Dim, because Dim was a little ahead of me on the unloading a lot of the Games Workshop stuff. Like he had a lot of gruts that he was willing to part with for a relatively cheap amount of money. So I have a lot of gruts I need to make. I did joke about making an army list with gruts. It is feasible. You could indeed make, I think it's 800 points for it's. I think 270 gruts is around the 800 point mark. So you could literally just flood the board with gruts. Have a couple of characters for some shits and giggles, and just sit in objectives. If you're playing like objective style games, you could do that. Now, it would be an absolute ball ache to play that game. It probably wouldn't be any fun at all. But, you know, it can be done. The absolute grut horde. So I do have a lot of gruts that need to be assembled and put together. At one point in time, I was thinking of doing a live stream with painting and making 100 orcs. But I don't think I need to make and paint 100 orcs for my 2,000 point list, because I've got a chunk of them done. Because it's like 90 Slugger Chopper Boys and 90 Shooter Boys. Sort of the base of a collection. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to do 3 units of each as just sort of tactical flexibility, so I could break them down. I could make them small units and mount them in trucks, or I could tank them as blobs of 30, and then obviously if I have 3 of each, then it's a case of I can do Slugger Chopper Boys or I can do Shooter Boys. I switched to using primarily Shooter Boys in my army back in 5th edition, because I figured I could get more damage out of them, and I was finding that my orcs at that point in time were missing a lot of long range punch. I found Slugger Chopper Boys didn't have the sort of footprint on the table that Shooter Boys did. And it's also another reason why I use a lot of looters in my army, because I found early on that if your enemy didn't have something shooting at it, keeping its head down while your boys were closing the distance, your boys tended to suffer because of it. So if you had something shooting at the enemy and keeping their heads down and causing casualties, those units, such as the looters, would become targets for the enemy shooting. So I found looters great as either doing damage to the enemy or being a distraction so that slugger chopper boys or shooter boys could actually get into close combat and wreak some havoc. So I always found that kind of interesting. That's why, if you're ever wondering tactically why I mostly switched to using shooter boys, it's just the playstyle that I like playing. But I like that with orcs. The army can be flexible to whoever's playing their playstyle. It all depending. Tim was saying they were man-eaters. No, he's played since the 90s. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get you. Oh, and it was a screw sticking out the front. I was wondering, I didn't know if you'd used the screw, Marcus, or if you'd used one of the green stuff rollers. Because you can do the same sort of thing. You can get a green stuff roller and can make sort of very fine threads on stuff, or screws, or piping. I think there's even tentacle makers for any Slaanesh fans out there. We won't go down that path. That way lies darkness, my friends. We shall not stray from the green light. God forbid there be no returning. But yeah, I think I'll get some grey onto my shooter boys that I started painting ages ago and didn't finish painting. Yay! I think I've based them all. Yeah, so they were all based. I just got most of the base colours on them. So I've got the grots, 10 grots base colours done. I like grey. I don't know why. I like the grey sort of colour on the base because I've always envisioned my orc army being in sort of an urban environment. I've always liked City Fight, but I didn't buy the latest version of City Fight, which is like Urban Conquest or something like that. I looked at people who'd done reviews of it, and I think it was 80 or 90 quid for the box set, and it was literally like a rule book, something like an old CD plastic wallet, and then a load of cards and stuff for territory. And I looked at it, there was a lot of scatter train, and I didn't think it was value for money, and I don't think the set sold well, because we saw a lot of that train recycled in a lot of the Kill Team box sets. For instance, the Kill Team Elites, when the Elite box sets came out, my personal inkling would be that that's why they all came with the same terrain. That scatter terrain that the Death Guard and the Orc Kill Team Elite box set came out, and there was another Kill Team Elite one I can't think of off the top of my head. Maybe it was Gene Stealers or something like that. I think they all came out with that same terrain because it didn't sell for Games Workshop. I think Games Workshop were expecting the Urban Conquest box set to sell a lot better than it did, and then when it didn't, they were left with a load of that scatter terrain. So I think that's how they logged a lot of that off. And yeah, that's why I didn't buy into that one. I just didn't find, me personally, looking at the box set, the cost of it, what you got in the box set, and how much it cost, I was like, I wasn't too enamored with it, to be honest with you. Mind you, if any of you guys managed to buy the Urban Conquest box set, feel free to post how you found it. You know what I mean? If you found it good value for money, sweet. If the pros and cons, but I still haven't read the Urban Conquest rules because that was the only place you couldn't. The book wasn't sold separately. It was just in the box set, so I thought that was a bit weird. You know what I mean? And maybe it was just in regards to trying to sell people stuff that it was all packaged together. You know what I mean? It's like, well, if you want to buy the rule book, you'll have to buy the box. And I'm not in the mood to buy a box set just to get the rule book to then split off the other stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, that's just... I know in theory you can do that with box sets. It's like, oh, I just want this special character. I could split the rest of the box off and sell it off. But selling Warhammer to people is a pain in the ass. It really is. Because people never want to pay. Like, you'd be lucky if you get half of retail. For me, I'm terrible at selling miniatures. I really am. So I wouldn't be of the opinion of buying something just to get one piece of it and then splitting it off, because I'd lose my I'd lose an arm and a leg in it. I don't know what the rest of you guys are like. Maybe you're better batters than I am, but I'm just like, it wouldn't work out for me in the long run. Squig Boss Mad Dobbs has sat down and crunched the numbers, and he's saying if you pay 1,300 euros, you can play a 3k point game with 1,000 grots. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, and I think, yeah, I think that would be madness, absolute madness. You know, it's feasible, but it'd be an absolute. Well, I mean, yeah, but well, now maybe we should try and get Dim Reaper to do it since he's into Rebel Grots. There are some people who really like Rebel Grots. There's a couple of them gits out there. It could be done. But like I said, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. But that would be interesting. Definitely interesting. 3k points worth of grots. Would you be able to kill? Would they even fit in their deployment zone? I don't think they'd fit in like a standard deployment zone in a 6x4 game. I don't think they would. And this is another problem that you'd have. You wouldn't be able to use any of the command point stratagems for the Orc Codex because the Orcs aren't, or the Gretchen don't get any clan cultures, which is really a pity. I don't see why the Gretchen can't get clan cultures. Because they make part of the clan. You know what I mean? I think whoever wrote that rule set didn't quite understand orcs. Orcs don't apply the clan culture that way. Orcs wouldn't let Grots have any decent loot, but the Grots are part of the clan because they're like mech helpers and they help the ducks and, you know, scrub the planks and all this type of stuff. They do all the stuff the orcs don't want to do. So they're integrated into the clan. They're a large part of the clan. So I don't see why Grots don't get clan rules. It's a kind of weird. Like, I can understand why they wouldn't be allowed to use some of the stratagems, like mob up and stuff like that. I can understand that they're like cowardly gits. They tend to get brave in large numbers, but I could understand there being some restrictions on some of the stuff, but I don't see why they can't use any of them. That's a bit, I think that was a step too far in my opinion. My humble opinion. Not that it matters. Yeah, see, Poke Cactus, Rebel Grots, Hearts, Squig Boss is just, yeah, nutter. Poke Cactus, I wish you could make a specialist attachment that can't have orcs in it, but the Grots get stratagems. That would be cool, man. If you could get Rebel Grots. But then, in order for that to happen, you'd have to have Grot characters. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's bad enough that the orcs don't get any attention. Could you imagine trying to get some attention for Rebel Grots? They're like a niche within a niche within a niche. It's like a super, super thin sliver of the hobby. But I do think it would be kind of interesting. I think Games Workshop, it would be interesting if they got to the stage where they're trying to eke out fluff to that regard, going to the Rebel Grots. Because the last time I think that the Rebel Grots really got anything of note was when Forge World brought out the Grot tanks and those miniatures. I don't think Grots have really gotten much love since then. And when was that? That was like, what, 4th edition, 5th edition? It was a bit of a while ago at this stage. You know what I mean? It's been a while. We'll see what happens. It will be cool. I don't see why we don't have more fan rules, but like I said, when it comes to tournaments and WYSIWYG and all that, I find that the 40k fan base has been kind of trained not to use fan rules and sort of not to use proxies and all this type of stuff. Because Games Workshop want to control you do and you don't play. Which is understandable to a certain regard, but also irritating. Sure, I will. They can't kick down your door and stop you having fun by yourself with your mates. Well, you can't really play 40k by yourself, so they can't stop you doing that. A strange one. Ah, well. I think that's it for this stream. It has been absolutely fun-filled and action-packed. I may have ranted a little bit. I do apologise if it was a bit ranty, but I've managed to get some bases done. You gits have managed to get a fair chunk of miniatures painted. I'm going to continue after the stream and try to get the base of these 10 boys done. And then that's them up to like tabletop standard, which would be sweet. I'll probably hit them with a dry brush of a lighter grey. There's a nice, was it like Ulthuan grey? There's a nice light grey I like to use. I think it's Ulthuan grey. Or there's like a dry one. I think it's like Longbeard grey or something like that. I might hit them with a dry brush of something along that lines. Rebel Squigs. Oh, the Red Gobo. Hans Groover. I do have a Red Gobo. It'd be cool if they brought the character back, but I don't know. It's pretty Gorka Mortar eccentric, and Gorka Mortar is like the red-headed stepchild of Games Workshop when it comes to specialist games. I don't think we'll ever see something of fruition come from it. But yeah. See the way they're treating some of the stuff, I'm not surprised. I think Gorka Mortar is better off staying in the shadows and being left to the fan base to do as they will with it. This stage, better off. Oh, Cactus, they could say that a grot is a rebel leader. I have one that is a warboss proxy. Yeah, exactly. You could do proxies and stuff, but like with more stuff becoming WYSIWYG, some people might have an issue with that, which is a pity. But I do like seeing proxy miniatures for orcs, like Gretchen and all that type of stuff, like 2 Gretchen in a cloak or something like that. But I think we will call it a day for this stream, guys. So if you've enjoyed the stream and you're new to this neck of the woods, hit like if you like the video. If you're not already subscribed, feel free to subscribe. I'll show a link up again for the Discord in the video description, so you can jump into the Discord. I do be in Discord every now and then. I do. I try to be. Obviously I can't be there all the time. I need to sleep and I do work, but I do pop in from time to time and actually chat to people, which seems to be something that doesn't happen in all Discords, but it is what it is. And yeah, thanks for hanging out in the live stream. Thanks for sharing your work in progress, guys. All of you dudes out there, my regulars, much appreciated. And we look forward to seeing the progress on vehicle builds now that they've started. I think I have a spare Land Raider that needs some TLC that I could probably do something with. So will I be in the voice chat? I will in a bit. I need to go and make another cup of tea because the end of this one is well dead at this stage. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. I'll catch you in the next live stream. Always every 2 weeks, 9 till 11. We did it 2 hours. I'm sticking to it. It's been pretty consistent. And thanks for sticking around. I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy. Good night. End.